Hey everybody, thanks for joining in today. We are going through blood vessels and the vascular system. I really wanted to bring to attention the differences between the structure of arteries and veins. I would say the biggest difference here is the inner layer. So the inner layer of an artery is actually very large. The surface area of the vein is probably just as large, but I want you to kind of notice the difference between how it's shaped. Basically, the shape of the vein allows for blood to not end up being backflowed. So that thinner structure allows blood to continue to move slowly back to the cardiovascular system or to the heart. Okay. The last slide, we kind of showed the different layers, or I guess the innermost layer of the vessels, but there are actually three layers. We call them tunics. So the tunic on the innermost layer is right here. I'm going to circle that here. It's actually made up of two layers. You have the endothelium and the loose connective tissue. So the tunic intima is basically just the innermost layer, which is right here. The actual inside where the blood is going to flow is called a lumen. Oh, I guess it's written right here. So that's a lumen. Same thing with the vein. The innermost layer where the blood actually flows is a lumen. The middle layer is called the tunic media. This is made up of smooth muscle. So the smooth muscle layer, meaning that it doesn't have any voluntary control. So the media layer is right here. Okay, and then the last layer is called the tunic externa, which is mostly fibrous connective tissue. And the external layer is right there. So collectively, regardless of whether it's a vein or an artery, it's made up of the same anatomy as far as the layers go. It just has to do with the difference in the type of shape that they are, and the veins are going to appear to be smaller, which helps prevent backflow of blood. So some major differences between arteries and veins is that arteries have really thick walls. There's a lot of pressure associated with the blood that's in an artery, so the walls of the arteries must be very thick. The walls of the capillaries are only one cell layer thick, which allows for exchanges between blood and tissue. This means that as the capillaries, or I guess as oxygenated blood goes into the cells, having it being one layer thick allows for faster diffusion of oxygen into the cells. And then most of the arterial blood is pumped through the heart, or most of the arterial blood is pumped through the heart, which ultimately goes into the arteries. So the veins, even though they are I feel like they looked kind of smushed. So the vessel of the vein kind of looks a little bit like this. They're actually larger because they're able to hold more blood with their kind of funky shape. They have valves that prevent backflow of blood. So if you look here, this would be an open valve, but this would be a closed valve. So because veins aren't controlled by artery or by the heart pumping, remember, arteries are going to always have a pressurized system because the heart is going to be pumping blood in a one-way direction. Veins don't have that luxury, so they're going to have these valves that will open and close to prevent blood from going the wrong way. Okay, then skeletal muscle will then milk blood into the veins towards the heart. So as skeletal muscles contract, it basically forces blood up through the veins to get back to the cardiovascular system or back to the heart. So again, here's our diagram of our arteries and our veins. Okay, the major difference is going to be, I think, the shape of the vessel. There are some major vessels associated with both veins and arteries. The anterior cardiac vein is a big one, the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava. What I don't want you to do is go through and memorize all of these. We just don't really have enough time for all of that, but just be familiar with some of these for future reference. Again, very similarly here, I'm not going to test you on any of these specific veins. The veins are on this side and the arteries are on this side. We just don't have enough time to memorize all of the veins and arteries. The big takeaway is that I'd like you to have an appreciation of the differences between veins and arteries, and then what some of the similarities are as well. Well, that wraps everything up, and I hope you found that helpful.